Einen schönen guten Tag, dear listeners. Heute ist wieder mal ein Podcast angezeigt, wo wir auf Englisch sprechen wollen. Denn I'd rather met him in one of his camps, maybe in Namibia, in Hohenib, or in the Okavango Delta, or in Tanzania. But now we meet in Munich, beautiful Munich. And a very nice welcome to Graham Simmonds, Head of Sales, Europe and UK and Middle East from Wilderness.
Thank you very much for having me here, and thank you for such wonderful weather at the moment. It's great to be in Munich, and looking forward to visiting a little bit more and maybe some Oktoberfest later.
Yeah, we have the time of October. We are here at the office of the lead management, who's representative for Wilderness in Germany, and it's just opposite from the Oktoberfest. It's just 20 meters. And we're all dressed up for tonight, having some fun on the Oktoberfest. But before we having some fun, we will talk about your business, and we talk about the experiences, and we talk about what makes Wilderness so special. So Wilderness was founded more than 40 years ago. I make it quick and easy. Just tell me what is so special about Wilderness, and why shall I choose Wilderness if I'm planning going to Africa?
Well, you're correct. Wilderness was founded in 1983, and longevity has allowed us to be in some of the best places throughout Africa. Originally, it started in Botswana by two guides who would pick up guests and put you in small tents, and people would dig a toilet and collect firewood. And now we've expanded into some of the most luxurious camps around the continent. So you already mentioned Namibia, Tanzania. We've also got Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Zambia, as well as Kenya and Rwanda. It really is a wonderful connection of all the wild places. As you know, a safari is different in every different country, and even sometimes in different parts of the country you can have a different experience.
Yeah, so you run or you manage 60 camps today, about 60 camps, and they cover 2.5 million hectares, which equals 25 times the city of Berlin, or one time the Bundesland of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. So it's a huge area which is not only covered by wilderness camps, but only protected and also protected. So what is behind the story of Wilderness? It's all about anti-poaching, protecting and helping people.
So yes, we've got just over 1,000 beds and over 60 camps. The beauty of that is that our camps are quite small. So you're getting some camps that have got 3 rooms only, very private and intimate. And then you've got some camps that are obviously a little bit bigger. But where we like to operate is in some of the most pristine and areas that need the most protection. So originally safaris were all about going out and seeing the animals, and everyone was happy. But as the world and population started to increase and pressure on the wildlife areas started to also increase, Wilderness realized very quickly that, one, to have a future in the safari business, you need to protect it. But also it's not just a future of protecting a business entity, it's a future about protecting our livelihoods and the future of generations to come. So, if you look at wherever we operate, we've got lots of community projects. If you don't involve the community, you're not going to be able to win the conservation game. As an example, historically, people would say, right, we'll build a camp and then we can hire 20, 30 people from a nearby village. That village might be 400, 500 people. So what do the other people do? You can't just have a select few. Wilderness then very fast realized that hiring from the village is a great way to incorporate that culture. But also we need to give back to those areas. So investing in the future of tomorrow. So helping with schools, water programs, even food programs where people would do subsistence farming, but maybe didn't have the right techniques to be able to continue growing. So Wilderness has invested heavily in the communities around. And once you've got the community buy-in and acceptance and you're helping them, then you can really look at the conservation and the animals that are around in the area. And so it's a win-win symbiosis with the people, the animals, and then giving the guests a wonderful time. Because if we don't have the guests, then there's obviously no revenue to come in to expand and go onto that.
So whenever I book a camp with Wilderness, I'm part of this conservation story. Is it right?
100%.
Yeah.
So Wilderness operates obviously as a profit business. and we don't shy away from that, because a large portion of that profit will go into the community and the conservation aspects. We even support places where we don't operate, because we know that it's not just about looking after where you are currently, but there's other places that potentially maybe aren't ripe and ready for a camp, but down the line, and very important to conserve larger tracts of land, we need to make sure we're also investing there. So we have a non-profit organization that is aligned, to wilderness. So whilst we've got the wilderness lodges, which are the profit generation, then we give a huge portion of that onto the non-profit. And it's a separate board of members, and they can go. So if people want to be able to help, far places, wild places, community areas, they are able to travel on a wonderful holiday, life-changing journeys, experience something totally different to perhaps what they know in Munich or Germany. And then they are also giving back in a very, very big way to not only just the people that are working at the lodges, but the education and the food security of nearby villages.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you run your camps on private concessions, but you talk about the most unfenced, untamed and unpredictable wilderness areas. So what is wilderness? So what means unfenced? What means untamed? Also ich mache mal kurz auf Deutsch, nicht eingezäunt, ungezügelt und unvorhersehbare Natur, was natürlich der Busch ist. So what does it mean for our clients? Maybe let's take an example. Let's take Mombo maybe. How does it work in spending a day in Mombo? I'd like to speak Mokete maybe later, because Mokete is your newest camp. That's built in 2024.
Correct, yeah.
And this is a private concession as big as the doppelt so groß wie der Harz, twice as much as the National Park of the Harz in northern Germany, or twice as much as the National Park of the Bayerischer Wald, Bavarian Forest. So it's a huge area, and you have only 18 guests on this area. And this is unbelievable how spacious. And so what you get if you book wilderness is you get the remoteness, you get the wilderness, you get the loneliness in the bush, and the real experience. So no other guests around, no other camps around. Is it that what I can expect from wilderness?
100%. So luxury is defined in different ways to many different people. And one of the aspects that we believe luxury is space and connecting. And it's easier to connect with a place and people when there's not a whole bunch of people around. So the majority of our camps are indeed in private concessions where we operate. And as you mentioned, you can have 18 guests. In some of them, you can even have 8 to 6 guests only in this huge area. Mm. And then even when we're there, in 18 guests, for example, you have 4 or 5 vehicles that will go out. Mm. We still restrict any of the animal sightings to 3 vehicles at a time to make sure that what you are witnessing is as natural as possible. And talking about the unfenced, the untamed, the wild areas, even where you are in your guest tent, your unit, you're safe when you're inside. People often think, well, if there's no fence, then I'm in a danger. And it's not the case. Because we live in as natural a way as possible and we build in as sustainable, natural way as possible, we are then able to be visitors in the animals area and the wild area. And that starts from the little birds all the way to the big king of the jungle himself, the lion. Mm. Mambo, for example, which you touched on, it's all elevated boardwalks. So when you're walking, you are getting a low-flying bird's eye view of the area. And I've had the privilege of being on a boardwalk there when lions have been walking underneath on a very high boardwalk. I was grateful for that. Or elephants are crossing, because in some places we have to have animal crossing. So you're walking with your guest, you're welcoming them to Mambo, and then suddenly there's a big bull elephant who's taking his time. Sometimes they'll cross and it takes 2 minutes, and other times you might have to spend 20 minutes or call for a vehicle to come and pick you up. So it's a really interesting way. And some guests, when they first get there, especially first timers, you can see they're a bit apprehensive, a little bit worried, and they ask a lot of questions. By day 2 or 3, you can see that they've shed their wariness. They're still careful, obviously, and we've got staff around and making sure, and walkie-talkies from the rooms to chat. But you can see that there's a different level of understanding and love for the nature that they are in. To be surrounded and immersed is probably the best word I'm
Yeah,
not sure how to say
yeah.
that in German, but I would
Yeah, immersive is eintauchen, also to dive
deep into something, be
Yeah.
surrounded all
Yeah.
from the top to the bottom, and you can
Yeah.
really experience what Mother Nature is. Instead of one, seeing it on National Geographic, or two, going to a zoo where you are seeing animals slightly out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. So Mombo is in the Okavango Delta, which is mainly the heart of the wilderness, where you founded the
It's
company.
where we started.
Yeah. So today it's 13 or 14 camps in the delta, and a number of 18 or 19 in all of Botswana. So this is
Correct.
it right?
Yeah. Yeah. We've got some camps that are further out of the delta in the Linyanti area, which is more commonly known as Chobe.
Yeah.
But the Linyanti area is a private area of Chobe, where once again only
Yeah.
our vehicles and operations can go. And I think the Linyanti area is about 120,000 hectares. So it's a huge area. If you spend 3 nights there, you can't travel the whole place.
Yeah.
But the expert guides know where the animals are, where to be able to drive, and see it. And yeah, we're always on the lookout for new areas that we can invest in. Sometimes it might be investing the Wilderness brand into a lodge to assist them if they need a little bit of marketing or management assistance. And other times it's finding a raw piece of land that's ready to welcome guests and assist the people that live nearby there to show off what Mother Nature has to the guests.
So we have the Okavango Delta. Which wildlife encounter can I expect there?
So the Okavango Delta is a unique area, and it's one of those crazy things where when you explain to a guest the first time, you can see it doesn't make sense, but they start to understand. So the Okavango Delta is actually a flooded area. The delta floods. It's an inland flood. The water comes from Namibia and Angola. So firstly from Angola, flows through Namibia and then into the Okavango Delta. And it takes about 3 to 4 months for the rains to come. Now, our rainy season in Southern Africa is generally from December through to March, April. So once the rains stop in March, April, that's when the December rains have flowed down that river and are now entering what would have otherwise been a desert in the Delta, Okavango Delta. And now, so you've had a rainy season where all the grass is great and the animals are eating. And then as the rain would stop and most animals would migrate away, you get this life-giving water that floods down for the next 3-4 months. So May, June, July, August, you've got all this lovely water that comes. September, October, it starts to recede a bit and gets dry before the next rainy season comes. So talking about an animal encounter, now you've got a place that's 365 days of the year has got amazing animals. So the big 5 is possible, although rhino, as we know, can be a little bit persecuted by humans for the poaching. So the rhino populations, like many other countries, are not, you can't guarantee the rhino sightings. But if we were to go there today, Oliver, we would be able to see lion and leopard guaranteed on a 3-night safari or even a 2-night safari, as well as hippopotamus, crocodile. You've got red lechwe, which is an amazing species that adapts to the flood water and the dry, but they prefer the flood. So when a predator comes, you get the red lechwe running through and you get those beautiful images of the water kicking up as they run through. Giraffe, zebra, wildebeest, waterbuck, impala, baboon, vervet monkey. I could go on for quite a long time.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I think for me the big 5 is not the main story. For me, it's more important. How do you encounter animals, and in which how did the experiences and maybe sometimes it's a little chameleon on a tree, which is more interesting than the hundreds of buffaloes. So the small things is this is the kind of experience maybe for repeaters. But some of our guests, of course, they expect the big 5. That is why I was asking. And so we have the Okavango Delta, and then you have several camps in Namibia.
Yes.
Yeah. In the desert.
So Namibia is almost the complete opposite of the Okavango Delta if you look at it on a paper and you look at temperatures, rainfall, etc. But in the complete opposite, you've got this romance and you've got this amazingness that comes from it. So where you would be able to sit, and if you're in Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Botswana, and you saw a herd of 50 to 100 elephant, in Namibia you can see elephant, but you might only see 5 or 6 in a herd. And they are the desert-adapted elephants, same as the desert-adapted lions, where they are slightly smaller because they cover large distances. But if you said to someone there's 5 or 6 desert-adapted elephant and lions, that's worth 400, 500 elephant or lions somewhere else. It's such a unique area, Namibia.
But elephants means we talk about the north of Namibia, the Palmberg concession maybe, and
Correct,
Hohanip,
Yes,
Desert Rhino Camp, and all these camps. Not Sossusvlei, not the dunes.
No, down there is a little bit more scenic. You know,
Yeah.
so a lot of guests would come on a safari, and it's still considered a safari because, as you touched about the smaller animals, you know, you are getting the lizards and certain snakes and insects that can thrive there.
Yeah.
And with the wilderness guides, what we pride ourselves on is not just being able to speak to guests, but have that intimate knowledge and understanding of the natural world, and try and take that and pass that on. So you can do a walking safari in some of the southern parts of Namibia, or get out of the vehicle and have a look, and you won't go very far, but your information will be an overload. It's almost like the stimulus is crazy, because when you know what you're looking for, you can start to connect with the smaller things in the African bush, and they are all connected, that go all the way up to how Mother Nature likes to balance herself out.
Mm-hmm. So if you talk about walking safari, I'm looking for the word. I observe a new trend it's not a new trend, but maybe for the German market, that more and more clients are asking for walking safaris. So mainly the repeaters, they want to get out of the 4x4 cars, and they want to feel, they want to smell, they want to touch, and they want to walk throughout the bush. So you can do this in Namibia for sure. You can do it. The most remote camp of the world is the Konini River camp, the Serekafema.
Yes, up there.
Is it still there? Yeah,
it's still there. It's a very interesting place, you know, and you
Yeah.
get some nomadic people that are coming through as well, and you get to see them.
Yeah.
The thing I really love about the walking safaris is that you suddenly it slows down your safari. So it's not in a bad way slowing down, but you start to see and appreciate a little bit more. When you are walking in areas of wildlife, you suddenly realize that you're not the apex predator. When you leave that vehicle, you feel a little bit vulnerable, and I think that's
Yeah.
something we miss in today's fast-paced world. You know, everything is, you know, you're going to the office, everything is kind of to a degree sterile. And now when you slow down a little bit and you're walking with an experienced guide, very safe, you can start to feel that vulnerability again. And people actually, they feel rejuvenated. As crazy as it sounds, the vulnerability allows them to feel human again.
Muss ich kurz übersetzen. Also Graham meint, wenn man halt das Auto oder eine Walking-Safari macht, ist man halt mehr verletzbar oder verletzlich der Natur ausgesetzt, schonungslos quasi, nicht schutzlos, weil sie sind natürlich, there are guides with rifles, of course, but so you're not unprotected, but you're vulnerable. And so das ist heute in dieser Zeit halt eine wichtige Erfahrung. Und eine Erfahrung, die natürlich auch transformativ auf die Menschen wirken kann. So we talked about Namibia. So we have the north of the most northern part of Namibia is the Konene River on the border to Angola.
Angola, correct.
Where you have the Serekafema and the nomad people. Yeah. And then you have the Palmberg concession and this Namib desert experience, where you can watch rhinos and elephants and
desert rhino. You can track the desert rhino with some of the researchers that are there.
Yeah.
Also the lion researchers have been there for many years. And you
the
get
desert lions.
Desert lions, correct. Yeah.
What's his name? Is it
Dr. Flipstander?
Yeah. Very famous.
Very an amazing character.
Yeah.
And guests have also got access to those researchers. You know, so wherever we are operating, it's not just about bringing guests into that area. You know, we always avail our resources, and it might be access to internet, although Starlink now is helping the researchers to get internet wherever they are, but it's sometimes it's access to fuel, access to food, a warm shower, you know, after 2 weeks of tracking animals, and Wilderness is very good at doing that. And in return, we say to the researchers, if you are happy to sit around a fire and chat to the guests, sometimes they'll have a bit more questions. Sometimes the people are asking if there's if they can donate. Sometimes people are asking for presentation, and the researchers love to do that, which is quite nice. And it just adds another layer to your safari, to understanding all the research and studies that are going on around.
Yeah, cool.
And sometimes it's not just lions. You know, it could be a study on chameleons. We spoke about study on giraffe, elephant, etc.
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, and so we have the south of Namibia with the Sossusvlei area. We have then Botswana, the Okavango Delta with Mababe. Is it
Mababe Depression?
Mababe
Depression.
This is the big one I'm talking about in the beginning, the Mokiti,
Yeah.
the newest one. And then, so you have another camps in Tanzania, Kenya, and Rwanda. Let's talk about Rwanda, because it was so many times in the media the last years. So it's all about the gorilla trekking. It's not, that's not right. It's not all about gorilla trekking. It's just one experience you can have in Rwanda.
So Rwanda was, you're correct. Rwanda was first known about the gorillas because it was such a unique area to go and see them. And with Rwanda really doing so well as a country, the luxury was there for guests to fly, and also being quite close to, main markets, being Europe. But what Wilderness did with the Rwandan Development Board was to go into a partnership. We believe in partnerships and not just coming in and acting on our own. And we gave them a promise that we could open up new areas where potentially visitors didn't have a microscope on. Gorillas are sexy, right? Maybe not when you look at them, but in terms of when I go and visit them, I'm going to be trekking, I'm going to see gorillas. My friends, my neighbors wouldn't have done that. But there's so many amazing parks in Rwanda, and Rwanda as a country wanted to keep people in and around the area. So you got Kigali, the capital, very small country, and you can drive from Kigali to the Volcanoes National Park, where you can see the gorillas. And then you can also drive to the east of the country in the opposite direction to Akagera National Park. And there we've got another camp called Magashi. And people kind of said, why are you putting a camp in there as well? You're doing so well with the gorillas and everyone see gorillas. Because it's about building a circuit and keeping people in an area where they can learn a bit more about it. So yes, the gorillas are wonderful, and it's a bucket list and must be done. But you can also go to Magashi and Akagera National Park, where African parks have released lion. They've rehabilitated the rhino, and you can actually go and see the big five in Rwanda, which a lot of people don't know about it. And that's just the partnership that Wilderness tries to do with countries to help the dollar to go a bit further, spread a little bit more to the communities, and grow the country as a destination as a whole, and not just a 2-night fly in, see a gorilla, take a picture, and then disappear.
Okay. I didn't know that I can see the big five in Rwanda. But back to the gorillas, because this is very interesting to most of our guests, of course. How does it work? So you just walk into the forest and look for a gorilla, or how does it work?
Not as easy as that. So then the national park there, they don't have any lodges inside. The lodges are just on the outside.
So the Volcano National Park is on the border to Congo, and Uganda. So in the triangle.
And it's in a very mountainous, high region. And so the lodges are just outside. But if you're there, it's not like there's a big fence or a big gate like partitioning. It's just natural and moves in. And we sometimes do get the gorillas actually moving into some of the areas where the lodges are. But mostly they stay in the thick forest and the canopy. So how it works is everyone will meet at the national parks area. You'll meet your porters and your guides, the national park guides. And then the groups are split up, and some people are maybe a bit older and find it harder to walk, and they'll go into one group. And then the fitter, younger people, or those looking for more of an adventure, will be in another group, because there's different families of gorillas, and the guys know where they left them the day before. And so they'll know roughly where it is, but it's not like you can just walk. You do have to trek a little bit, cut a bit of foliage. Sometimes it can be a bit wet, so it's a bit muddy. It's an adventure, and it can take a bit of time to get there. The scientists and the Rwandan National Parks Board, they've decided that you can spend 1 hour with the gorillas. So, and that's just to prevent any passing of potential disease that could be between us, because we're very similar as a species, but also not to over-habituate the gorillas, because they still need to be wild and do what they do. And so guests will be in a group, and they'll get to travel, obviously asking their porter and their guides lots of different questions. And then when you come across these families, the families are headed up by a big silverback. He's the boss. He's the big gorilla. And everyone always knows that the silverback is the biggest, but when they see this huge specimen of a gorilla, they suddenly realize how small we are as humans. And then you get to watch and interact with them. So you see how they're interacting with their families. They sometimes come closer. You're not allowed to move to them. You can't reach out to them. You have to also, if the silverback comes, you don't make eye contact with them, because in their language that's seen as a challenge.
So I have to stand still, keeping eyes down.
Eyes down, and if he walks up to you, you don't move. You're obviously listening to the porter, and they will say to you, okay, like, back away slowly if there's time. And they know that, the porters know the gorillas. They know each gorilla will have a name to them, and they know which ones are the cheeky ones, the naughty ones, because some of the young gorillas are curious, like our children are curious.
Yeah, sure.
They might come and tug on your shoe, and the big silverback, most often they're not, disciplines them, and he knows that the humans are here, they're not part of our family, you need to stay away. But sometimes if he's relaxing and lying down, the little ones can get a little bit closer, and so you just have to be very respectful of them, listen to the porter. And I've never met a guest who's gone, and some of guests have trekked for 20 minutes and found a family, some guests have trekked for 3 hours and found a family, and all of them are all saying that they loved the experience. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. So it's a fee of $1,500 today, yeah?
Yes, that's for the gorilla permit, yeah.
You pay to the government.
Correct, the Rwanda Development Board and National Parks.
Yeah, okay. So, and you have two lodges there, the Bisati, and then there's a new one?
We've got 3 lodges. You've got Bisati and you've got Sabinho, which is there's a few more for rooms, and it's more of a cottage style, whereas Bisati is a more luxurious lodge. It looks like a bird's nest or gorilla's nest.
Yeah.
And the new lodge is called Bisati Reserve.
The reserve.
So that is slightly more luxury.
Yeah.
And it's catering for people that want to really get away and don't even have to or want to interact with other guests. They can be in their own little villa.
It's very private.
Yes, very private.
Yeah. And okay, the price is also upmarket. But anyway, so okay, it's a fantastic experience. Well, there's so much which we can talk about, but I want to ask you at the end of the podcast for your most exciting, your most extraordinary experience, because you spend so many years in the bush. There must be a lot of moments, hours, or guest experience or own experience. What was your most interesting thing you can tell us?
So it's difficult, and I always think on this because it changes. People always say to me, when is the best time to be in the bush? Or when is the best time to go on safari? And to me, whenever I'm in the bush on safari, to me that's the best time. And I know it sounds a bit silly, but for example, one of my most memorable moments is walking guests back at Mambo camp to their room at night, and you shine your flashlight and you're checking and you're making sure everything's okay, and you're on slightly elevated boardwalks because you feel then you are a little bit above the animals, so you get them. And lo and behold, on the boardwalk walking towards me was a leopard. So we suddenly had to pause, and it was a leopard that we knew in camps. Leopards often will hang around a camp. They've got a smallish territory. And obviously the guests froze, which was good. And we said, okay, we need to back up a little bit. And then we backed up to another guest room, which wasn't their room, but I knocked on the door and said, we might need to come in. And the leopard walked down. And then instead of turning towards us, very fortunately, the leopard carried on. But I mean, that's a wildlife encounter with guests. You get those moments as well when you're sitting, late night around a fire and you're chatting to guests and you hear the hyena calling or lion calling. And there's, we could probably go on for another 30 minutes. I think I could tell you about different experiences and seeing it. But that one always stands out because it was, you tell the guests that, don't worry, we're okay here. The animals are on the ground. And then you forget that leopards like climbing and using.
But this is exactly what you mean if you talk about unfenced and untamed and unpredictable.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed as a guest, if it's getting dark, to move around the camp on your own. Of course not.
Yeah, not at all. Sorry, I probably should have said that. When it's dark, whether it's in the morning, because we wake up early sometimes, particularly in winter, and winter months it's darker.
Yeah.
Or at night, we don't let guests walk by themselves. And, sometimes you get very powerful guests that are, coming from politicians or, wherever they are, and they're alphas in their area. But when they come into the bush, they realize that they might need someone to help escort them. It can be bodyguards of film stars, but you still have to have someone from the bush who knows the animals, knows where they work and how to get out of a situation without having to use a firearm.
Yeah. So if you talk about film stars, or I just wrote down a quote of you. I have hosted presidents, royalties, and repeaters, and I'm so proud of the lifetime memories we create. This is fantastic. Yeah. So you're very proud of being part of wilderness, I guess.
Yes.
And to create lifetime memories, it's the role of the nature, but it's wilderness who brings you into this scenery and letting you being part of the these.
The day-to-day happenings, yeah.
Yeah. So how can I being part of these memories, creating in the nature? Let's say this.
Yeah. So I mean, we always get. You can sometimes have someone who can travel 2 or 3 times a year because they are prominent in their field of work, or they're a very famous actor or actress or royalty. And then you get people that have saved up their whole life to come on safari once. And we treat everyone with VIP status because we never know when they might come back or if they will come back. We want to show them what Mother Nature is. We want them to reconnect with their roots and their history, and then to see a change in them, particularly with families. When they get to reconnect with their kids. There's so much social media and everyone's on the phone and a computer these days. But to be able to see them connect at dinner or sit around a fire or on a game drive watching elephants bathing in the river, it really does, it hits home. And I'm very proud to work for Wilderness. It'll be 16 years now, coming up in a few days' time, different regions, and seeing how Wilderness has not only changed guest lives, but staff lives. We also, you mentioned earlier, and maybe I should have said it, what was some of the proudest moments or craziest moments in the bush. And sometimes it's just seeing a person who's gone from building a camp, having maybe limited education opportunities, and that person now goes on to become a camp manager or goes on to become a guide.
Yeah.
And you can see how it changes them. There's a very dear gentleman who is in Zimbabwe, and he was a driver. He worked his way up from being a tractor driver to the car driver, and he'd always tell us he wants to become a guide, And his English language wasn't what was needed to be able to do it. But, with hard work from him, and that's where most of it comes from, and opportunities that the company can give to him and push him in the right direction. The other day I went into one of the Zimbabwe camps, and there he was with his binoculars in a very clean shirt, the biggest smile you've ever seen. And he was picking me up as a guide for Wilderness and telling me about all his stories with guests. And like a slice of bread, from the first time I met him, the beginning part of the bread, to where we were then, the way he spoke, his confidence, how he can provide for his family, not just his family, how he can provide for his extended family now by having that opportunity, it brought a tear to my eye. And that was also something, it's not just the guests that we're changing lives, the animals as well as the people is where we are.
I was about to say this. Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. It was amazing talking to you. Unfortunately, not in Africa, but next time we see us down there.
You're always welcome.
Yeah.
If you can get there, we'll go find a shady tree. We might have a little bit of background noise with the animals and that, but we'll find a shady tree and we'll be able to sit and talk for as long as you'd like to.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much, and have fun on Oktoberfest.
Thank you very much.